wherever you want to be. Wherever you want to be.
Be the monkey in the middle.
I know, right? I think they came. I think they're on. You're on. You're on.
Am I on?
I think you're on.
Am I on? That's good.
I don't know about you all, but hearing a little journey takes me back to those junior high days where there was slow dancing. They did more slow songs than they did those that Don't Stop Believing, but I loved it. But I don't junior high.
Junior high years and yours.
I believe that Mr. Perry is one of the greatest lead singers of all time, rock band. His voice is awesome. But I am pleased today because we have a couple of great lead singers in their own right. And that's Tim Mallad and Alan Currier. And they're going to share their own journey, dad joke, with us today. And we got some Q&A that's going to happen here. And then honestly, would love it. We may be a little squeezed on time, but would love it if anybody towards the end has a question they want to throw out, maybe we can grab that at the end. So with that, I want to have Tim first introduce yourself, tell a little bit about yourself, how long you've been at Forefront, and more about your organization, and then Alan will do the same.
Sure. Tim Mallad, CEO of Forefront Living. I've been at Forefront Living for a little over 6 years now. Before that, I worked for another organization for 21 years and some change, and it was part of that 40 years up there. So I was with Greystone and was on the executive director side, and then regional director, and then came to Dallas in 2000 as an executive. I went backwards. It was the other way. It came to Dallas as a regional director and stayed in the management department here until 2016. Wow. What else do you want to know about me?
Well, I would love for you to talk a little bit about Forefront and who you all are, and just a little bit of a setup, and then we're going to go into some more details.
So Forefront Living, we are a Dallas-based nonprofit organization. We consist of Forefront Living, which is really the parent company, Presbyterian Village North, which we'll talk a little bit about in a minute, which is a very large continuing care retirement community in Dallas. Christy kind of let out of the bag the outlook at Windhaven, and I'm pleased we're going to have such a low rate at financing. I'm greatly looking forward to that, Brandon, so thank you, and Dan. We also have a hospice wing to our organization, which is Faith Presbyterian Hospice, and within that organization exists the T. Boone Pickens Hospice and Palliative Care Center, which is a 36-bed inpatient unit in Dallas. And then finally, we have the Forefront Living Foundation, which exists to bring the extraordinary to our organization through philanthropy. And you can see on the map where we're located. I think Christy already had this map, and we've been on quite a journey. So with that.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. Thanks, Tim. And Alan, I would love to turn to you and share a little bit about Rockwood and who you all are.
So again, my name is Alan Currier, and I'm the CEO with Rockwood Retirement Communities in Spokane, Washington. I grew up about 3 miles away from our corporate office and never dreamed of going to work in senior living or working for Rockwood, but lo and behold, did that and have been there for 31 years. So first 13 years as a CFO, and last 18 years as the CEO. So I've been on a few journeys in terms of development over that 31-year period. And so today I'm very pleased to be able to share a couple of our stories with you. You can see in the slide here our properties. We have 3 properties, again, in Spokane. Spokane's a city of about 500,000, so not a large city. We're the largest senior living provider in Spokane. The upper left-hand corner was our original campus, or is our original campus, a life plan community, Rockwood South Hill, home to about 500 residents, mostly independent living, but with the typical continuum of care as well to support that. To the right is our current project we're working on, Rockwood at Whitworth. That's a picture of what it will look like. It's in progress right now. It sits on a small site, about 8 acres. It will serve 270 residents when it's complete. And to the lower left there is some affordable housing we built about 10 years ago. So
Awesome.
that's Rockwood.
Yeah, no, awesome. Thanks, Alan. And I think, Tim, we're going to shift back to you because each of you all have embarked on, a strategic planning effort. And that's really helped to set some new directions for you all as an organization. Alan, the same for you all. And I really am interested to know what sparked that effort for you all to begin and what kind of needed to change and why.
And you asked me, I think, in preparation for this, was there one event? And there really was one event. And I think we'll look in a minute here at some slides. The organization as a whole was very skilled nursing focused. And I remember going through the interview process, and several of the board members really felt that long-term care and skilled nursing was the future of senior living. Now, this is in 2016, and I still took the job. But and there was some thought they had just invested in expanding independent living and had added to the campus. There were 2 senior living campuses in North Dallas, some nice apartment style senior living, and they had never had apartment style senior living that really connected to the commons. So this is after being in place almost 40 years. And we knew and had the sense, all right, we've got to rebalance this. But the opportunity really came almost immediately for us when one day one of the gentlemen that works and oversees construction on our campuses said to me, at that time I was president, as president of this organization, you need to know that 2/3 of your skilled nursing units in your original building do not comply with life safety code. That somewhere along the line, a donor decided, who had been in skilled nursing and didn't enjoy the view of the ceiling, to do that it needed to be redone. And in doing that, they did all sorts of things that no longer complied with life safety. And Sue would be very proud of me. I self-reported, and the state didn't call back, which I knew was really bad. If they're not, and we were really talking about 100 plus units, just over 100 units, and having to relocate and work through the placement of those residents. And as we began that journey, we were very fortunate. We had just opened some new assisted living, and we were able to take a lot of folks who were, I think, in long-term care perhaps too early and provide an assisted living environment, but we had revenue we had to replace. And the board is like, what do we do? Well, we're going to go into strategic planning, and we're going to engage Greystone, which was really nice. And it took us on a journey that we'll talk about in a little bit. But, it was a lot of education. I would highly recommend, as you begin this piece, I think as it all came together, Greystone was very good at bringing in some solutions. And then we were fortunate enough to have Ziegler, through just a variety of Ziegler folks, including Brandon, come in and talk about what really is going on in senior living and what would be an optimal solution. And that was really the birth of our newest addition to the Presbyterian Village North Campus, which is the Hawthorne. And the Hawthorne is 112 units of apartment style senior living. And, Christy will show you the charts, and, it was a deep market. There was a lot of opportunity in the market, and we had such great success with the newest additions that we embarked on the process of beginning the Hawthorne.
Yeah, and it gave you a chance, too, I think, to flip your continuum that was more healthcare centric, obviously with the nursing beds being, forced to reduce those. And then, okay, well, how are we going to replace that revenue? And one way to do that was through the Hawthorne expansion. Yeah,
and not only was the market deep and strong, but the economics of the addition. I mean, 112 units is a significant addition. We netted 60 because we took down some existing units. In fact, Stuart's grandmother at one point in time actually lived at PVN, and Stuart has a claim to fame of tearing down the building that his grandmother lived in. So I don't know if you didn't have childhood memories there or not.
She wasn't there.
Yeah, she wasn't there. That's true. That's true.
I might have heard a little more about that.
The performance of it was so great that we were able to go back to our core commons area, which really hadn't been touched since 1980. It had some refurbishments here or there, but very Brady Bunch to say the least, and transform it. So I don't know if some folks are going to go on a tour today to see it, but the coming together of the Hawthorne and that campus has just been incredible. And the great quality. Thank you, Mr. Durr, for all the hard work that we've achieved is it's transformational.
Yeah, and you're not done, right? Because with the opening of Hawthorne, you all are just continuing the process, right?
Yeah, I was asked that yesterday on a tour. Are you finally finished with the construction on this campus? We're on 66 acres. We're over 40 years old now, so there's always going to be a zone of the campus that we're going to be working on. Currently, we're in master planning again, which is part of our strategic plan with Greystone, and we're looking at that core campus. That building that had the bad ceiling had some issues during the last winter storm here, and fortunately it's going to be coming down, and it's going to be making way for some, we think, more independent living. So we're always taking the campus apart, and the good news is, if Christy were giving this presentation, she would show you, the dots and the income qualified folks from, 3 or 4 years ago when we began, or 5, I guess, now we began this process. The market's only gotten deeper, so lots of opportunity on that campus.
Awesome. No, thanks for sharing that, Tim. Lots of change, and we hope you all get to see it if you go on the tour today. The images don't do it justice. It's really been transformative. Alan, I want to shift to you and want to have you share a little bit about what was that spark for you all. But you all started strategic planning back in 2016, but there's some stuff that happened before that I think might be a really interesting story to share with the group.
I'd be happy to share that. And what Stuart's referred to is a project on our South Hill campus that's actually kind of old now, but it's still, I think, very relevant in some of the lessons that we learned. And I'll share with you. So kind of set the stage, share with you a site map of our South Hill campus. I've sit on 90 acres. What you see, I believe, in yellow on your screen, there's the cottages. About half of our residents live in the cottages in the campus there. The blue building to the right of the page is the original 1960s apartment building called the Rockwood Ridge. And what I'm going to talk about a little bit is the building to the left of that connected the yellow building called the Summit. And the red building was some healthcare and typical healthcare components of the campus. But anyway, this was really our spark. This is Rockwood Ridge there. Beautiful building, isn't it? 72 independent living apartments, 46 assisted living apartments. And really the issue we had is that we had the large accommodations in the cottages. We had very small apartments in the apartment building there. We wanted to fill the void. We also really needed to renovate that building, and we knew it cost us about $15 million to renovate the building. And the common spaces in the campus were quite dated, quite tired, and needed some considerable improvements. So we embarked on a redevelopment effort and wanted to expand and created or designed a new building called the Summit. And it was originally designed to be 2 towers side by side, 8 stories each, and 93 apartments. And we got off to a good start. You can see kind of a partial timeline there. Design came together well. Project budget was penciling out just fine. Pre-marketing was going well, but lightning struck. And that was, Stuart, if you would advance to the next slide there. That was the Great Recession. 2008, we were talking about how that impacted home values earlier. And it just brought our marketing to a standstill on that project. We just could not get the pre-sales that we needed to have selling into the headwinds of that first step of the recession there. So we reimagined the project. We looked at it from different angles. So we redesigned the expansion, went from a 2 tower concept to one tower, but we were able to make that remaining tower taller to improve the marketability of that. In doing so, we reduced the unit count by a third. So we went from 93 units to 65 units. Unfortunately, we had to eliminate some of the non-revenue related expenditures for the project. So we eliminated the renovation of that original building. We eliminated a pool. We just wound up with a smaller, more manageable project. And then 2012, the recession started to wane. Things are looking good. Finally hit our pre-sales mark. And if you go to the next slide, lightning bolt number 2 hit. Recession was done, all behind us, and the Fed reduced their quantitative easing, the taper tantrum. Some of you remember that. And there's just a mass exodus out of the bond market. We could not get the project financed. And we may have been the only senior living project that time frame to have had our project delayed twice because of the recession, once at the beginning and once at the end. At this point, our construction permit was about to expire. There were new building codes. We'd have to design to the new building codes. That'd be costly. We were about to lose authority to issue our bonds from the Washington State Housing Finance Commission. We were actually just weeks away from having to cancel the project when Ziegler came through for us and got the project financed. It took about a year to finally pull the financing together, but we closed on Valentine's Day of 2014. Interest rates were a tad bit higher than we had expected. About 6, wound up being 7.5. So we've been paying that price for the last 9 years, looking to refinance now. But anyway, after going through all that, this is what we built. Very beautiful apartment building, sits high on the hill in Spokane with great views of the area. 65 apartments, averaging 1,450 square feet apiece. Project had a really positive impact on the overall campus, improved occupancy significantly. Our wait list has doubled, and it's proved to be a really great project. And just one closing thought is that while the nature of our obstacles, our lightning bolts, were unique to our project, your challenges are different and no less significant. We heard about them today, the pandemic, the war, inflation. But if you're prepared to persevere and be nimble and change your project, you can get through it and have a successful project.
Yeah, and you did, and it was a long time frame too.
It was a long time.
A lot of waiting, but
10 years, but
well worth the wait.
It was.
That's great. Tim, I'm going to shift back to you, and we've got the description that you laid out of what you were doing with Presbyterian Village North. But at the same time, you all were executing on that. You were evaluating other market opportunities of how you could extend your brand. And I would love for you to maybe focus on those and tell us a little bit about what those strategic efforts and ideas were.
Yeah, I think really if you would look back at our history, when Presbyterian Village North in particular opened, it really dominated the market in Dallas, and it was really the premier, I think, provider in the premier retirement community. Over 40 years, and with the lack of action that was happening on the campus, it sort of faded into the background. So as we were looking at our strategic plan, we knew we had to do a number of things. The organization had affiliated with another campus in the southern sector of Dallas, and it was struggling. And when we got there, we had to make the decision of what to do with that campus, which we ultimately decided to sell it and focus on the main asset, which was PVN. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, we went through a rebranding. We changed our name. We were Presbyterian Communities and Services, and nobody seemed to understand what that was. And we had the opportunity to rebrand to Forefront Living. And during that, one of the strategies was, let's regain our position in the Metroplex. Let's reinvigorate this historically excellent brand. Let's have an opportunity to breathe life into that original vision, which was really good and a great mission, and at the same time move out of the city of Dallas and look at other markets that were adjoining. And that, as we looked for quite some time for the right land, and as Christy showed you, and if you look at where the dots are, it just got better and better and kind of threw a dart at the Metroplex, and it landed on Plano. And I don't know how many sites Russell Jones went through with us, but he produced site after site. We landed on really one of the last undeveloped pieces of land in Plano. We're very fortunate that through our THR, or the health system tradition where we came from, the former president of the board actually owned the land. So we were able to leverage that relationship and claim this is actually their homestead. Their family homesteaded in 1861, so it's got a deep history. Mm-hmm. And I think Christy did an excellent job of just describing the market was tremendous when we were looking at it, and it just kept getting better and better. And to I think our great joy, it's gotten even better. But, that strategy, and our board's very conservative, really looking for home runs, looking for deep markets. And the land at the time, and Paul Steinhoff and I were talking about this last night, we thought it was really expensive. But, 3 or 4 years later, we would not be able to afford the site we're on. So it really has been a home run. And it afforded us all of the flexibility that and I don't think we understood at the time how much things were going to change, but the project was, I think, so well thought out and produced so well that we were able to withstand, I think, Stuart, is that the right word?
No,
or Christy, wherever you are, all of the unknowns that were hurled at us. So she showed those too. It was really interesting, that graphic, and I really, the two fists here, there were fists going in other places too, I can assure you. But
she almost put your head on that.
I knew I had a feeling it was coming, and I was expecting that. But a bit of a sucker punch, I would say, was also going on there. But that's the outlook. Christy did a nice job of talking about it.
Yeah, and some great images. And that's also part of the tour, I believe.
Yes.
It's getting out to the information center. Out there in Plano, you'll see a much clearer vision if you're able to go. But that's not it. Plano, obviously, adding another campus.
Plano's not it, and I don't know where Russell is, but we meet with Russell at least once a month to look at multiple sites. We're still looking within the Metroplex. There are other opportunities. As Dallas gets built out, some of the sites are not available, or they're in unique locations that we evaluate, but we're going beyond Dallas in Texas. We've actually landed on San Antonio and are currently looking at several sites there as just phenomenal opportunities. We want to go into areas where there's not a strong nonprofit provider, faith-based like we are, and there's a need, and the response has just been tremendous in Plano, so we're looking there as well, but we're also looking outside of Texas. So our strategic plan allows us to go outside of Texas, but really with the same parameters and looking at the same market depth. If you look at this great chart, it's not as cool as the one Christy showed with all of the movement, but it really talks about, our growth plan, and on the new campus development side, always having something going. So we're in the midst of working on Plano, trying to figure out all those punches, but we're securing land for the next project. And also looking at how we continue to reinvigorate what we do through programming, through changes, through the development of other services for residents. So the plan was multifaceted. Yeah.
Awesome. Alan, would love to shift to you and just have you then carry from the new tower on the South Hill campus getting created, and that was a huge step for you all. You digested that, but then that strategic planning effort as part of kind of your mantra, it kept going, right?
Yep, we'll talk about that, yeah. So the spark for our next project came, as Stuart says, shortly after completing the summit. The board wanted to make sure the organization was positioned for success going forward. And so Greystone had a role in that spark. We asked them to look at the opportunities in the Spokane area, and so they did a strategic opportunity assessment, is that that we call it there, and provided a very comprehensive study and identified a number of opportunities to expand and grow. But what emerged as a number one priority for the organization was repositioning our campus on the north side of town. at the time called Rockwood at Hawthorne. So we have two Hawthorns at the stage
I
there.
know.
A popular name, apparently.
Very popular.
That's right. But this had really reached the end of its useful life, bleeding cash flow big time, and it just really needed a lot of work. The campus was originally built in 1958. We bought it in 1999 for a Presbyterian group. It sits on 8 acres. There's some new product. In fact, if you go to the next slide there.
Yeah, there's
some new product there to the back. Those are patio homes, but the X building to the left is the old building. And it's 72 apartments, very small apartments, 20-bed SNF, no memory care in the campus. We'd applied a few Band-Aids over the years, converted to a rental, tried to go 100% assisted living in the old building, and just nothing seemed to work. So we hired Greystone to attempt to develop a viable master plan. And I say attempt because a lot of us were pessimistic that they would be able to develop a plan that would be workable. I mean, we had a small footprint to work with, and it was really important to us to be able to accommodate the existing residents and not displace them. And so we knew that would lead to some sort of phased approach that would drive up the costs, and we just kind of doubted we'd be able to come up with a plan. But to your credit, we came up with a really terrific plan. It really rose to the occasion. And so you go to the next slide there. And this is the plan that Greystone and our team developed together. That's right. And it's a two-phase plan. Eventually results in the demo of all the old buildings, except those patio homes, and replacing it with a healthcare building with 48 assisted living apartments, 24 memory care apartments, and then in phase 2 addition, 117 new independent living apartments. As I mentioned, one of the complicating factors was that we didn't want to have to displace any residents, and not one resident had to leave during this repositioning effort and redevelopment effort, and that really makes me proud. Anyway, the steps were, see the two phases there on the slide there. We would let phase 2 attrit down over a year period, create some vacant apartments. We'd move phase 1 residents over to phase 2, then tear down that phase 1 site, build the healthcare building, then move residents from phase 2 over to the healthcare building, tear that portion of the old campus down, build the new IL building, and that was kind of the plan. It would take 4 years to complete that process, required 2 financings, so added a little bit of complexity there. And I will add that part of our plan was to eliminate the skilled nursing component of the campus. We just couldn't find a way really to make that pencil out in the moving forward. And in Washington State, we can provide pretty high acuity in assisted living, so that no longer has a place in our continuum. So if you look at the next slide, that's what it will look like. And see the Z building is what's under construction right now. That's the independent living building, and the healthcare building in the back, and your traditional amenities. Just going to be terrific spaces for our residents. I will add that one thing you don't see here is that one of our plans is to develop a private park across the street. We acquired a home from one of the neighbors, so we will demolish it and build a small park there. Have a doggy park and pickleball courts and stuff like that. Have some nice outdoor space.
Love me some pickleball.
Yep, love that pickleball. And it's real important because the site is real tight, not a lot of green space, so that would be a nice amenity for the residents. And I also want to talk just a bit about something that's really important to us, a nice feature of this development, and that's our relationship with a college just down the street. So Whitworth University is a small private college about 6 blocks away from the campus here. We have a long history with them. In 1958, they actually sold the original developers of the campus the land upon which then the Hawthorne campus was constructed. But 60 years later, fast forward, we entered into the Partnership for Intergenerational Living with Whitworth University, and that allows for sharing of resources between the two organizations to benefit both students of the university
great.
and residents of our retirement community. So our residents can use their fitness center, can take classes on campus, use their library, just avail themselves of all the amenities that the university has to offer. As part of our commitment to the arrangement, we provided 20 of the Whitworth alumni a discount for their entry fee, and those are snapped up really quickly. And this affiliation with the university has made a really big impact on the pre-sales. A lot of our residents cite this as one of the reasons they chose the campus, and just really excited about that moving forward. We're 93% pre-sold. Yeah, look to open. First move-ins in January. February, I'm looking at Heather. Yeah, okay, that's right, guaranteed. Okay. Anyway, it's really going to be a great project. Now, I want to talk about one more thing. If we have some time, I want to talk about back to our South Hill campus. So with now the Whitworth campus, the light at the end of the tunnel, we're moving back to the South Hill campus again. And we just sense a real need to master plan this campus. So I just really love these slides here. That's the campus aerial 1960, one building there, barren campus, 2022, has the new Summit expansion there, well built out. But there's still some opportunities, we think, for expansion. We want to make sure the campus is well positioned for future success. So, I mean, our sparks for hiring Greystone to develop a master plan for us is our wait list has really grown. We want to accommodate more residents. We're interested in taking a look at the amenity spaces in the campus. Can they accommodate the growth in addition to more residents? Will they meet the future expectations of our next cohort of residents? And we want to come back to that original building and find a way to generate cash flow to pay for that remodeling, which we still haven't done. So hopefully this will allow us to do that. So we hired Greystone to develop a long-term campus plan, and they brought this visual back to us and to the board, and it identifies 3 different zones for expansion, and in the middle there, kind of in the turquoise, that is also where we would be locating additional amenities to the campus. And in addition to this, they presented some other concepts looking even more forward into the future, looking at actually out to as far as 20 years down the road, and with the thought of anticipating the eventual replacement of our healthcare center, the skilled nursing, and the memory care. So we're really trying to be very forward-thinking in all this. Where we stand right now is just drilling down further into these concepts, testing the feasibility, running the numbers, and trying to get in a position where we can get this to our board in a position where they can approve it hopefully by the end of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's excellent. Thank you, Alan. And I know I've got a number of questions still yet to get to, but I'm going to throw a curveball. Of course.
I'll throw one right back at you.
Oh,
I'm ready.
Okay, let's. I would love to know. I mean, each of you are accomplishing some great things. Planning ahead, taking bold steps, requires flexibility. But I would love to know why. Why, for Forefront and for Rockwood, why was that important to you all as a management team, as a board, to take those proactive steps? And what was, if there was one thing that kind of popped to the top based on what you went through and how you evaluated taking these steps, what was a reason to grow? And I don't know who wants.
I'll be happy to go first because the answer is actually quite easy.
Okay.
Having, operating dated communities that are 60 years old, it was a matter of keep up with the times, make the improvements we need to ensure future success, or the community is going to die. Yeah. And we want to continue to serve residents, want to continue to be relevant, and we had to make the commitment to planning and and make that investment that's needed to do that.
Oh, that's great.
just about continuing to serve residents.
Perfect. Tim?
I think for us, it was really, we were not a nimble organization, and I think that the fact not only have we survived, but we've thrived over the last 6 years, is creating a platform where we could be nimble with the amount of change and I think the rapid change. If you look at what Terry shared and what Christy shared, if you're not nimble and you're not constantly reinventing yourself, you're going to get left behind. And I would rather be out there, or we as an organization would rather be out there at the forefront, no pun intended, trying those new things, reinventing ourselves. And this has allowed us to do that and continues to allow us to do it.
I wanted to say dad joke on that, forefront. At the forefront. Yeah. Maybe one last question. If someone has one in the audience, happy to take that. So be ready to raise your hand. But these efforts have obviously been successful steps that you all have taken. It took some guts to step out, even in the face of adversity. The sucker punches may be coming. What's been the most rewarding thing for each of you? I would say, both organizationally and personally, if you have that.
The people we serve and the impact on it. Just the other day, to walk through PVN and see the sheer joy that the existing residents have and how refreshing it is. And also just to see the new individuals and how they're changing things and how they're reinvigorating us. It feels good to go to work. It feels good to interact with the people we serve.
That's great.
And are about to serve.
Rewarding. I think from an organizational standpoint, just knowing that the communities are positioned, well positioned for the future going forward, can be very competitive. So that is very pleasing and gratifying. Personal level, we're a small organization. I get a chance to meet all the depositors and get to know them as they plan their move to our community. So be able to talk to them after they moved in and see the smile on their face and thank me and thank Rockwood for making it all possible, that is really rewarding.
Excellent. Excellent. Love that. Anyone want to throw a question? If anybody's got one, we'll take one. We got just a little bit of time left here. Any questions? Boy, I tried for audio. Oh, there it is. Brooke. Yeah, so hopefully everybody could hear that. What were off-ramps that were considered if you're embarking on some major initiative like this? Either one of you want to take a shot?
Boy, I didn't envision any off-ramps, to tell you the truth.
We got on it's like the tollway, no exits, we're going. Yeah, we're committing. Yeah. Well, there are a lot of alternatives, all kidding aside. There have always been alternatives because as we looked at our growth strategy, especially on the land side, it's difficult right now to find land, and we're currently looking at all sorts of different sites. And the backstory on the campus in Plano, we couldn't find land there. Russell found this wonderful site with this great couple that owned it, and they had owned it for many years, and I think it was in Allen, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And Steve and I flew out to their 55-plus community in Arizona, and we were in the 11th hour of striking a deal with them when Mr. Haggard said, "How would you like to build on our home site?" And we had all of those different sites in play, and we had to have the opportunity to back out of that deal, which I felt I really liked. The couple, they're wonderful people, but this was really a good opportunity. So it's keeping our options open. Throughout this process, there are always options. So I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Yeah, I think that was great, and it I think is just a segue to this one closer that we've got here, which is be flexible. Be flexible. This is actually a flexible fastener. There's some professor at California Polytechnic State University, San Luis Obispo, if you know where that is. I didn't know where it was. But they developed this flexible fastener. And, usually in engineering world. They're rigid and flat, and here this one bends with what comes at you. And I think, Brooke, that it does include having off ramps. If you were to talk to Josh Ashby at Fleet Landing, their plan is, we actually presenting yesterday, reminding them of the off ramps. So you got to have them in your plan, but you got to have a plan that's flexible so that hopefully you don't have to take that off ramp. And if you're going to be bold and put yourself out there to execute on that vision. And so there's this last quote that I love from my neighbor, Chuck Swindoll, who it's about change. It's constant, so refuse to be rigid. Resist the mold, reject the rut, and change is a challenge. And I think going into these bold initiatives, just accepting that you're going to have some and having the ability and the flexibility to change and adapt with it is what's critical. So I, with that, want to thank these two gentlemen for their time and their talent and their energy. It's been a pleasure partnering with you all. So let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you.
And we are done. So we're